Trenton Journal is for people who won't take no for an answer. Trenton Journal is for community leaders. Trenton Journal is for people who won't settle. Trenton Journal highlights some of the positive voices in the community and fills in the information gaps through original reporting.
Welcome to Capital Conversations. I'm your host, Kenneth Miles, founder and publisher of the Trenton Journal. Each episode, we bring you change makers and stakeholders who are making an impact in and around the city. Today, I have with me real estate developer, author,
yes, sir,
community activist,
yes,
Andre Williams.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. I'm excited. I heard a lot about you guys, and to finally meet you in person, man, I'm just excited about what you guys are doing and what the city of Trenton can look forward to in the real estate world. Yeah.
So what's your current project right now in the city that you're working on?
Right, so as a real estate developer, I have over 25 years experience. So I take abandoned properties, I rehabilitate them with my construction company, and then sometimes I'll repurpose them for homeownership opportunities, because I'm big on that, helping the city get the properties back on the tax books. And then also some of them I'll turn into businesses, similar to like my daycares, my preschools, my construction trade school, and my nonprofit organization where we do medical housing, and we do housing for veterans, guys that come home from prison. We provide housing for some of them, and also with DDD, the handicapped community that need permanent housing. The state has programs that they look for residents that people can kind of live in for the rest of their lives, and so I provide real estate opportunities for them as well. So yeah, man, my current project is on Chambers Street. I have 10 houses there that we purchased from the city of Trenton last year, and we created a whole first-time home buyer program for that community. A lot of times our urban areas go through gentrification, and when I see gentrification, I always think about stabilization first, because they go hand in hand. So instead of going into an area as a developer and pushing the people that live there out, if they have a high rental rate in that area, what I do is I'll say, okay, you guys paying $2,400-$2,500 a month in rent. Let me show you how to become a homeowner, and we'll drop your mortgage down to like $1,300 a month. So you'll go from paying $24 in an area like Chambers Street, giving them home ownership opportunities. They're now paying $1,300-$1,400 a month. And most people, they just don't know that these programs exist. So you have to do financial literacy. And that's where, like my seminars, I do a seminar every single month in churches and community organizations. I'll even do them at my daycares and preschools. That way I can teach the families the importance of home ownership and how real estate is really the foundation to building wealth. And I teach that. I want to teach more of our people basically how to build a legacy of their own. You can't leave a rental property as an inheritance to anyone. You can't leave a job as an inheritance to anyone. So we have to help them turn that corner and start thinking, longevity instead of month to month and week to week. Let's help them build a vision that may be 5, 20, 40, 50 years down the line. As developers, that's how we think. How can we bless this community and have people, basically write out their vision for the next 20, 30 years? So, yeah.
Do you see gentrification happening in Trenton now?
It's here.
It's here.
It's here.
Wait.
Yeah.
Okay, wait. It's here. I want to delve into that.
Yes.
But
Yes.
but before we do that,
Yes.
you're a lifelong Trenton resident.
Yes, sir.
Right?
Yes, sir.
Born and raised here.
Yes, sir.
What are some of the changes you see that's going on?
Yeah.
From you
Right.
grown, from you.
Right. Yeah. So I'm
Being young,
52,
yeah.
right? So born in 1974. In the late 70s, early 80s, there were no abandoned houses here. So we didn't grow up seeing blighted communities. We didn't grow up seeing, and if you saw grass growing too high, that was probably the biggest fear for a child. Be like, yo, ain't nobody keeping this house up. That was the biggest fear for a child. But now, when you look at what the drug epidemic has done in urban areas, or not just Trenton, but urban areas around the country, Camden, Philly, Baltimore, Maryland, like they've been hit hard. And so now, going into the 90s, crack and everything is at its peak. And I think what we're dealing with now is the residue from 30, 40 years ago almost. We're dealing with that residue now. So is gentrification here? It is here. And now these kids are growing up seeing over 7,000 abandoned properties throughout this city. Not just residential, some are commercial, some are previous homes that were knocked down, and so these are open vacant lots. And having a generation of kids, I think, growing up with seeing this every single day for 20 years, like I got some people that I have seen grow up here for the last 20 something years, and all they saw was poverty. All they saw was abandoned properties. So for me, I take that to heart and say, you know what, most of these neighborhoods, I had friends that lived in some of these homes, some of these, on some of these streets, being an athlete and all of that stuff. You kind of, everybody in the city because you're constantly dealing with their kids or their grandkids or having daycares and preschools. They're from all over the city. So me seeing that, I figured it's time for us to do something about it. You know what I mean? My generation, once we went to college in the 90s, when they came out, they didn't want to live here anymore.
Yeah. What made you different, though?
What made me different is my dad, man. My dad, real estate developer, general contractor. So I grew up, working with him in properties that we previously owned. You know what I mean? Or properties that he owned before I was born. We would go back to these properties after he bought the bigger house. He would go back to these properties and clean them up after someone moved out. I grew up hearing, go pick up the rent after school. I'm 15, 16 years old. Go check on this house. They said, they having a problem with this. So I'm hearing this. And to me, that was the norm. You know what I mean? That was the norm. So, even St. Francis Hospital, that's where I was born at. They're tearing that down now. So I grew up seeing when there was no abandoned properties to now 7,000 abandoned properties. And I feel like, I'll keep it a buck with you, as they say. It was some of my generation that messed the streets up too. You know what I mean? So in the height of that era, you're talking about the 90s, the 80s. A lot of those guys idolized the guys on the corners making a lot of money and what they perceived. So my father posed something to me one day. He said, those guys really don't control that block. And, he explained, he said, they don't own nothing on that block. I say they're hiding whatever they're doing. They're hiding it in some of these abandoned properties. And those abandoned properties are worth more fixed up than what they're making in a year. And that did something. He was like, if they just knew that they could flip that house instead of those little packages or whatever they were doing, their lives would be much better. They didn't have to go to jail. They didn't have to, basically have, the cops chasing them and looking, they don't have to look back over their shoulders and getting killed. Like it's senseless, but he said they don't know. He said they don't know. So I want you to be able to look at that property. If I can help you get that property for $5,000, me and you do the work on it. Now, my dad, again, previous GC, developer himself, he knew all the trades. He knows all the trades. Thank God he's still with me. He's 83 and he still come out with me. But he said, we go in, do the plumbing, we do the electric, we do the HVAC, we do the roof. We turn that property over, you can sell it for $100 and something thousand. Now that's a property that I'm buying late 90s, early 2000s $5,000.
Was that your first property?
Well, no, my first property I made an $80,000 profit, 80,000 profit on Chambers Street, which was crazy. Yeah, right on Chambers, but it was in the 1,000 block. You know, I own houses now in the 100 block, but my first property I made an $80,000 profit, and then after that I made $100 and something thousand profit. So you seeing that as in your 20s, early 30s, that changes your mindset, because now you're saying I can literally take this property and update it and get that type of profit off of it just by putting a little time in, putting a little work in. And back then I was only flipping maybe 1-2 houses at a time per year, right? And then, of course, me having the mindset of scaling up to get more work production done, I need to teach somebody else these trades. I need to bring some other people in that know these trades. That way, one, we can scale up and fix houses up faster, and then turn around and sell them faster. You know what I mean? So I went from that to studying tax liens and how to get properties for cheap through buying tax liens. And that was a whole nother world. Then a lawyer told me at that time, Andre, you're making all this money, you need tax write-offs. So they taught me how to have a nonprofit organization and use that as tax write-offs and tax exemptions. And it just kept compiling, and not knowing that, 20 something years later, that all of these companies will still be running that I started late 90s, early 2000s, man. It's just been, one amazing journey. And now we're getting 20, 30, 40 properties at a time, which is, for me to come back from where I was only doing one a year to 20 something years later to doing a whole block, like, to me, that's just, it's just phenomenal, man. It's like you're living a dream. And that's what motivates me every day.
As someone on the inside of real estate development, where do you see the future headed in the city of Trenton? For those who may not know.
Yes, sir.
Right.
Yes, sir.
For those who may not know.
I see more homeownership opportunities. I see more investors coming back because of some of these abandoned properties. As we repurpose some of them, we're doing seminars, I'm having meetings, and I'm hearing what the people want and need in their communities. So as we provide that stabilization, you kind of have to cater to their needs or to their demands. If they need a corner store that sells fresh fruit or fresh vegetables, if they need a corner store that's providing vegan options, if they need a corner store that, or a barbershop in their areas, or if they need some type of restaurant or after school program or a resource center to help some of these people that get off drugs. Like, you hear all of that, you can't ignore it and you can't unhear it. So as a developer, as I'm buying buildings, it's almost like I'm buying them to basically supply their demand. At the same time, as we talk to the churches, and I'm asking the members of those churches, have you ever dreamed of owning anything? And then the truth comes out. Yeah, I wanted to be a florist, or I wanted to be an artist, or I wanted to, have my paintings displayed here, or like, people really start telling you their old dreams. Now, mind you, they might be working for the state, they might be working for some other, organization, and their dreams got kind of muddled or covered. And we have to, as visionaries, as leaders, we got to kind of help them uncover those dreams and kind of bring them back to the surface. And before they leave this earth, try to help some of them live a more fulfilling life. You know what I mean? And that's where I see it going. Us being able to work together, opposed to being afraid to work with one another. There's a lot of sayings out here: you can't work with your brother, or you can't work with family. All my businesses, I work with family. Every last one of my businesses, my family is involved. You know what I mean? And I love it because they know me, I know them, I can trust them, and I can put them in the hands, or I can put people in the hands of people that I know will do right by them. You know what I mean? And so as we develop our businesses and help other people develop their purpose and get their tax ID number, get their EIN number, their LLCs and all that stuff registered, and kind of walking them through the process of being a business person the right way. You know what I mean? I started off using cash, but they don't have to because I've made all those bumps and bruises, and I understand, business credit goes a lot further than cash does. You know what I mean? When you're buying your first home, you want to use the bank money. When you're opening up a new business, you want to have business credit. You know what I mean? Not just coming out your pocket using personal money. So now we have to be able to teach them that, but teach them how to turn that corner. Where they was once renters, you got to tell them, hey, you don't have to be a renter no more. So I see it going there, but we have to continue to work together. And, this city can come back, man. We can help balance those books. Right now, we're 70% renters in Trenton. That's high.
That's a lot.
Right. So now 30% homeowners. So even if we bring that homeownership to 40, 50%, now you have a community that's going to take care of their properties. You got a community that's going to take pride. You got a community that's telling their kids, we own this. It changes something in your mind when you know that I grew up in this room, and when I come back from college, this room is still going to be my room. You know what I mean? Because now that requires a longer vision for your family. When you have a family that say, I can send you to college because I'm saving $1,000 a month now instead of working 2 or 3 jobs just to afford $2,500, I'm saving that. So we have a college fund for you now. You'll be able to follow your dreams. Or
you have equity. You have something you could pass down.
Come on.
To your family.
Yeah. So that's the whole mindset. You're kind of reprogramming the mindset of the individuals in our community. And that's the true power. You know what I mean? So I see us making a turn. I see the urban areas making a turn. It's a ton of development going on, but a lot of them are for rentals. They're not for home ownership. So guys like us don't really have competition because I'm thinking home ownership only when it comes to most of these residential properties, and then repurposing them to help people. Of course, that's clients of the state, clients of disability. Let's put them in home settings. You know what I mean?
How do people get into one of your properties if they were interested in purchasing?
Yeah. So what I have them do is contact me. Or contact my credit repair person, because I like to start there so that he can kind of see what their credit scores look like, and then I'll move them from there to my mortgage company and I'll get them pre-approved. So they can contact our organization at oneheaveninc.org. So One Heaven, one is spelled out. So oneheaveninc.org, and they'll be able to reach us, and then we'll run them through our intake form to find out how we can help them. If it's home ownership, if it's personal credit, if it's business credit, if it's mentorship, we provide all of that.
And what numbers do you like to see their credit score at?
Well, for home ownership, I like to see it around like a 620. And if it's not, don't be afraid to call us. We can help you get it to that 620. And that's what we specialize in. Let's prep you. Let's prepare you so that you don't get denied. So I like to see for home ownership at least 620. If you're purchasing here in New Jersey, that way we can get you help with your down payment and closing costs if you need it. HMFA has a program where they'll give them up to $22,000 towards their down payment and closing costs, and we like to try to get as many of our clients a little help. You know what I mean? That way they don't get deterred or don't get discouraged because they don't have enough in their savings or anything like that. It's in New Jersey, we literally have programs to help with that.
What are some of the barriers of working in the capital city as a redeveloper?
I really haven't ran into many barriers because I've been doing it so long. I think, just for the council people, the administration at City Hall, we just have to switch their mindset a little bit too, because even though I've been getting 20, 30 properties at a time, even prior to me dealing directly with the city, I was buying tax liens and I was foreclosing on tax liens. I was getting fire damage properties donated to our nonprofit owners. So I've been getting bulk properties, and I'm not the only one getting them. There's other organizations and other nationalities that have been getting bulk property. So I don't want for the city to think that some of these outsiders are getting properties by dealing directly with the city. No, a lot of them getting properties through tax liens, investing. They're doing the same thing I was doing. You know what I mean? Buying 20, 30 tax liens at a time. They foreclose on those tax liens. Now they got 30, 40 houses. You know what I mean? I just found, through talking with the city, and instead of doing demolition projects for them, I said, let me save the houses. And so we kind of ushered in another way for the city to deal with general contractors and developers to save some of these abandoned properties. But that's not the only way. It's so many different strategies being used on real estate that they'll slow down one process because they think another nationality is getting too many properties when that's not the case. They're getting the properties through tax lien investments, and it's groups of them. And they move without even dealing directly with the city. You know what I mean? As far as their housing program. So I just want to dispel that mindset that they're getting nepotism, favoritism. They're not getting that. I'm not getting that. I've been buying properties for over 20 something years through so many different strategies, and up until 2 years ago, I never got properties directly from the city. Always got them through my private tax lien investments, you know what I mean, and wholesale and different things like that. So I'm operating almost 20 something years without going through their program. Like, I didn't even go to the auction because it was too many novice at the auction overbidding on properties that I knew needed a complete gut and rehab. So I'm not paying $40,000 for a property I know that's only worth $3,000. Now, the reason we have so many abandoned ones is because they'll go in and bid at the auction, but when they go see how much work the properties need, they back away because they don't want to take on doing a complete gut and rehab, and a contractor's charging them 100 and something thousand to do the work, and you just bought a property for 40, 50,000 overpriced. Now you're up to almost 200,000 before you can even sell the property. It's not worth it for them, so they'll give the properties back to the city and lose their deposits. And that's why we kept accumulating so many abandoned properties, man.
I thought it was interesting that some of the properties that you were renovating, redeveloping, you said you actually knew some of the families who lived there.
Oh, did I, man? Like that whole block.
That had to be
yeah,
a special feeling.
It is, man. It is. I still know the families. Like, they'll come back and be, of course, their parents, 70, 80 years old now. And I'll see their parents and they like, Andre, I just need to hug you. Like, I never seen our house look like that, or I never seen our block look like that. And, some of the ones that are my age or a little bit older, they'll come back and say, man, thank you for saving, because to them, even though they moved away and, living comfortably wherever they're living at, to them, it was still one of those things where, you still have an attachment to that neighborhood, even though you're not there anymore. Some of them in the South, some of them in South Jersey, North Jersey, some of them out in LA in the Midwest. But for them, it's like they still say, I'm from Trenton, I'm from North Trenton, I'm from this part of Trenton. And when they see me rehabbing their old home, man, it's just all love. I tell them, man, hey, man, I put extra love in these because I knew all y'all, you know what I mean? I knew every single family, man, every single family. So for me, I couldn't knock them down. The city wanted me to knock them down. I said, no, let me bring them back to life. You know what I mean? Just be fair with me on the pricing, and I'll use my own money, and we'll fix them up, and we'll get them back on the tax books. So that's why I didn't sell to investors. Other investors would, they do what they do. They want to rent them out. You know what I mean? They buy them for me for $200. Their mortgage $1,300. They gonna rent them out for $2,500. Make a $1,200 a month profit. So I couldn't do that to people that I know in these neighborhoods. I'd rather help them become homeownership and they save that money. You know what I mean? Yeah, man. That way they can leave their kids an inheritance, man.
What's the time frame of you redeveloping properties?
So if it was one property, I would say I could do that in maybe 2-3 months. You know what I mean? But when you're talking about 10 at a time or 15 at a time, I'm looking at least a year with those amount of properties. Only because you're rehabbing complete homes and you want to sell them. So at the same time you're developing them, you're also thinking about, I need to start listing them at maybe around a 6-7 month period. And that's what I ended up doing. I had one model home. I did that in a couple months, of course. And that model home sold the other home. So now they're all under contract because of that model. And I just followed the model that we use in bigger developments. You always have a model home that, or a model apartment that people can say, this is what this model looks like, and this is what this model will look like. You know what I mean? And so that's what I did. I kind of, just used that. And when they saw the quality, when they saw that they're going to have off-street parking, 4 bedrooms, a full bathroom on the first floor, a full bathroom on the set like that, and washer, machine connections, dryer connections in the house, it does something to your psyche when I've been renting and going to laundromats for so long. Now I'll be able to do this in the comfort of my own home. Like that gives people a sense of pride. And, they know in their hearts they're breaking generational curses. You know what I mean? And, some of them come back and say, hey, my sister want to buy one. My brother want to buy one. Can you talk to this person? And building those relationships, that's the key. You know what I mean? That's the key. That's the key, man.
I can't have you on as a guest and not ask you for what advice would you give to people who want to follow your path of getting into the redevelopment game?
Yeah, man.
Where would you start? Where would you suggest that they start?
Yeah, I would start with books. Educate yourself on the many different styles of real estate investing. I have books online, of course, on my website, oneheaveninc.org. But I would start with educating yourself, learn the different types of real estate, whether it's buying and holding, buying and renting. If you want to buy and flip or repurpose that building for commercial use, whatever that goal is, educating yourself is really the key. And as they educate themselves, it will start resonating with them that hey, I got to put a team together. I can't do this by myself. So now you're going to be putting your team together. You're going to get you an electrician. You're going to get you a plumber. You're going to get you an HVAC guy. You're going to get you a title company that could do your closings. You're going to get you a mortgage company. And, for some that may need a real estate attorney or advice, you're going to get you a realtor and you're going to get you a real estate attorney. So I would start with that because if you build your team first, they'll be able to answer questions that you're going to be asked when you go to buy properties, because the city always want to know what's your exit strategy. How are you going to be able to, one, buy this home, but finish this home? And your bank, once you start dealing with banks, that's the first question, like, what's your exit strategy? How are you going to buy this home, finish this home, and get it back on the market? Or if you're going to use it as a rental, or if you're going to use it as a business, they all want to know your exit strategy. So you're actually asking the right questions, and it's literally the same exact questions that most of these agencies and organizations will ask. With me, I've been so blessed. Even when I do my seminars, I give the books away at my seminars because I want people to just take this knowledge and use it. And if you're just going to leave an inheritance to someone, these are the perfect books to teach you those money-making concepts of how to do that, especially with real estate. You know what I mean?
All right. And what are your socials?
My social is I am Andre Williams on Instagram. On Facebook, just Andre Williams, and then One Heaven Inc. On all social media platforms.
Thanks for joining us.
Yep,
You're
thank
dropping
you.
some jewels in this episode.
Thank you.
All
Thank
right.
you. Appreciate it.